Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and today I want to talk to you all about the mythical Pokemon introduced in Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is Zarude, which I actually really like. I think his design's amazing, and I think that it really has a lot of potential. I actually managed to get my hands on one. A viewer very kindly donated me one for this video, so that is really great, and it means that I can show you everything it can do. It's a grass dark type, and it has pretty good stats. It's got base 105 HP in defense and 95 special defense, which is very good bulk all round. It's got base 105 speed, which is really good. Being above that base 100, it's definitely a good landmark to reach. And then it's got 120 attack, which is very high. It's going to hit really hard. So it's going to be a relatively fast, powerful attacker. Its special attack's a bit lower, base 70, which you're not really going to use. It does get nasty plot, but I don't see that being a very good set. The issue with Zarude is that when it was first announced, one of the only pieces of information we knew about it was its ability, which is Leaf Guard, and that really isn't very good. It prevents status when the sun is up, but that's not great for Zarude. I mean, it's a grass type, which makes it immune to a lot of the powder type moves, and so Spore and Sleep Powder, probably the most common sleep inducing moves, aren't going to affect it. It's also a dark type, so it's immune to Prankster moves, so Prankster Thunder Wave and Prankster Will-O-Wisp, which you do see relatively frequently, aren't going to affect Zarude either. So actually it's not going to be status that frequently at all. So I really think that Leaf Guard is a bit of a waste, especially because the sun has to be up and it doesn't have too much synergy with sun outside of that anyway. So it's a bit of a bummer. So I wanted to play around to see what other abilities I could try to give it that would give it an edge in battle. But first, I wanted to show you a team which I consider to be a bit more viable. Obviously, any battles that I show you today are going to be casual battles because Zarude isn't allowed in any official format. My opponent is going to lead with a Tyranitar and an Excadrill, which is a very common pairing. Obviously, with Excadrill's Sand Rush ability, it's going to be really fast. And I wanted to see how Zarude could take on a very common pairing like this. So I lead with a Talonflame next to Zarude, and obviously a lot of the time Talonflames like to go for the Tailwind to boost speed. If I did that, then Zarude would be able to outspeed the Excadrill. But actually, so I'm going to Dynamax turn 1. I was expecting the opponent to Dynamax turn 1 as well. A lot of the time you do see that either Excadrill or Tyranitar are a good Dynamax candidate. Maybe Tyranitar would Dynamax to try to survive a hit. But you see here, I actually have the Peck on my Talonflame, which is a really nice way to have priority to activate my Zarude's weakness policy. It doesn't do too much damage as well because I'm more of a special attacker. Talonflame nicely dodges a Rock Slide there. I don't know how important that would be though, because I've already got my weakness policy off and I'm about to KO their Excadrill with Max Knuckle at +2, and it then gives me an extra boost. But really, Excadrill was one of the only things that could outspeed my Zarude because it's got that really nice base 105 speed tier. And so Talonflame's Tailwind isn't going to be as useful here. It's not very good against the Tyranitar either. So Tyranitar gets a big superpower off, but I am able to survive it because I have a ton of HP and a really good defense stat. My opponent's now going to bring in a Rillaboom, which generally they can't do too much to Zarude, but obviously it could Dynamax and do a lot more damage that way. I do still have my Talonflame though, so that could potentially help me out with the Rillaboom. But here, Talonflame just gets flinched. I'm going to go for another Max Knuckle into their Tyranitar because taking that out is really going to be very helpful, and it allows me to get another attack boost before trying to attack the Rillaboom. So I'm in a really good place right now. The opponent really hasn't been able to do too much to me. The Fake Out last turn was pretty good for the opponent because they were able to break my Talonflame's Gale Wings. So if they have anything fast in the back, they might be able to outspeed Talonflame, although Talonflame is very fast anyway, so that might not be as likely. And they send out here Hydreigon, so that could potentially be Scarfed, and that would be able to outspeed my Talonflame. But you see that the opponent actually just cancelled the battle there, which I think was a real shame because they still had Dynamax and stuff. But I thought that this was a good battle to show you that the Zarude is a really good matchup against Excadrill and Tyranitar. Generally, they can't do too much. If Tyranitar did Dynamax, it would have done less damage to Zarude because it would only be able to go for Max Knuckle instead of Superpower. Also, looking at the damage, I have a feeling it might have been like a damage boosting item, because that superpower did a lot of damage and Zarude has a lot of physical bulk. But I thought that battle just showed you like the really nice Peck weakness policy interplay. So on the first turn you can either choose to get your weakness policy off straight away, or you could go for the Tailwind to allow Zarude to outspeed other things, or just to match the opponent's Tailwind, because Zarude is already very fast. So that was the first battle, just to show you that lead matchup, which is very common. Now I want to show you another battle which showcases the rest of the team around Zarude a bit more, which I think is really cool. So in this battle, my opponent leads with a Gengar and a Hydreigon, which was really cool. And at first I didn't really see the synergy so much here, but then thinking about it, it actually has a lot of synergy. Gengar's slightly faster than Hydreigon, so it could go for some speed control like Icy Wind, or alternatively, it could Dynamax and go for a Max Ooze. And this prediction is why I actually switch out into a Silvally, or Silvally, Silvally Steel, which is a really interesting pick. I actually picked this because my friend Marcos, aka Moxie Boosted, has done a video about some things that could take on Porygon Z, and that's a very relevant Pokemon at the moment. Silvally is definitely one of those. So this is a relatively specially defensive Silvally, but obviously it can be immune to any Max Ooze, which I kind of predicted some poison type attack coming into that slot, and that is what happens. So not only do I avoid the damage, waste a Dynamax turn, but I also avoid the special attack boost that the opponent would get. Now the Hydreigon here goes for a Dragon Rush, which is a physical move you don't see very often, but I have a feeling they might be something like Blunder Policy, because it's an inaccurate move and would give them some speed boosts. So that would have been really cool to see that activate, and I can understand why they run it. It did a lot of damage as well, but not quite as much as maybe like a Max Special Attack Draco would have done. That would have done more. They do end up having Earth Power, but I have Snarl on my Silvally, which is going to outspeed the opponent's Pokemon after a Tailwind to reduce their special attack. So now they're really not very threatening at all, and it's looking like I should be able to stall out their Dynamax relatively easily now, which is really good. So anyway, thinking back to the first turn, there's the potential that with Tailwind I could have maybe taken out the Gengar with a Max Darkness, but I wasn't sure whether it might be Focus Sash, so I wasn't comfortable staying in. And I do think that this Silvally play was a pretty good one, just to be able to, you know, reduce the damage output, waste their Dynamax turns, and also get the paralysis on the Gengar, because once the paralysis is there, even if Tailwind runs out, my Zarude in the back will be able to outspeed even if they switch out. So that's why I went for that. So now my opponent's Dynamax is about to run out, and I've got some chip damage. I've paralyzed them. I think that was quite a good example of how Silvally Steel is a really nice typing and really good way of stalling out special attackers, because you can just go for the Snarl and disrupt them very easily. It's also very good against Clefairy because of the multi-attack, which hits very hard, so that's cool. Now I'm just going to Dynamax my Zarude here. I could go for the Peck strategy, but at the same time my opponent's Pokemon are already quite damaged, so I should be able to take them out relatively easily. I do actually decide just to go for the Peck into my Zarude to get that weakness policy activated and do a lot more damage. And I can go for a Max Darkness here, which is pretty cool because it actually has synergy with the rest of my team, because this is actually a special attacking Talonflame, and I thought that that would be better because it means that I can minimize my attack stat, so Peck does as little as possible to my Zarude, and then the Max Darkness can boost the power of, for example, Heat Wave or Hurricane from my Talonflame, which are good moves. I like Heat Wave because it's able to get to like break slashes on the opponent's side of the field, even if the opponent goes for misdirection and stuff. I think that Heat Wave Talonflame is pretty fun to use. Now right here I actually go for Peck into the Chandelier because I really don't want it to get an attack off. It could do a ton of damage with a fire type move. So I Peck just in case it's Focus Sash. Very commonly they are Focus Sash, and Peck is my most accurate move compared to Heat Wave and Hurricane. So that may be the only time that you see Peck actually used in a competitive battle, as I am able to take out that Chandelure, and I'm able to get another special defense drop onto that Hydreigon, which is really nice. And my opponent's last Pokemon is Lapras, so that kind of explains why they went into something that was weak to my Zarude last turn. Because of the special defense drops, a Heat Wave is actually able to take out the Hydreigon, even though it's spread damage, so that's really good. And I can just go for a Max Overgrowth here to take out the Lapras, and that is going to be game. So I like this battle because it showcased a number of things. It showcased the Silvally and how that can really support teams with its typing, with the access to relatively fast snarls. It's got powerful multi-attack, and it can also Thunder Wave opponents. So I liked that aspect. I like the fact that we've got the Talonflame interplay and showcasing the interplay between Max Darkness and the special moves on the Talonflame, as well as being able to peck an opponent to death. And then I think that's basically it for that team. I didn't show you the rest of the team, but there were some other small things on it to note. Like, obviously there's another mode with Dracozolt, which is very powerful, but the Max Darkness really helps out in terms of getting the damage from Primarina up, and Gengar as well. And I think Gengar's just a cool pick, being able to go for Icy Winds and such, and also Sludge Bombs to help take on some of the grass types that might give Zarude some trouble. Otherwise, Zarude is a pretty powerful Pokemon with this team. But that's enough of that. Now let's play around with the abilities. I wanted to give Zarude a better ability that would allow it to do a lot more damage and just be a much more interesting Pokemon, because that is the one aspect of this Pokemon that I think really lets it down. Leaf Guard just is bad, and we want to replace it with something good. So let's just go straight into this next battle, because I think it's really cool, and it features one of my favourite Pokemon from Sword and Shield. So my opponent's going to lead off with Grimmsnarl and Darmanitan, a very offensive lead. They had a very offensive team in general, as I'm going to lead with Runerigus and my Berserker. I love Berserker. Now, you've seen Runerigus gimmicks on my channel before, so you probably have an idea of what's going to happen here. Grimmsnarl actually goes for Reflect. This turn, I actually am just going to go straight for an attack because I'm very scared of that Darmanitan. And I did go for Ally Switch turn 1. Turns out I didn't need to because I didn't attack either of my Pokemon. What I was expecting was Darmanitan just to go for an Ice-type attack into Runerigus and take it out, because I'm much more specially defensive than physically defensive. But I can just Ally Switch and one-hit KO through Reflect with Berserker, which was crazy. Berserker is such a cool Pokemon, and I love it so much. But that's a Tough Claws Iron Head for you. It will do a ton of damage. I needed Runerigus to survive that turn because it's pivotal in this strategy. So what I'm going to go for here, hoping that both of my Pokemon will survive this turn because they're both very specially bulky. Runerigus is full special defense, and this Berserker has a Assault Vest and a lot of special defense investment. I can just go for a U-turn into my Runerigus. I actually have a defense boosting berry, which is an idea I got from Weedle to Needle, who boosts the defense and then can do very powerful body presses, and I go straight for a skill swap as I bring in my Zarude. Now here I'll just show you that Zarude now has the Tough Claws ability, which I thought was really cool because it makes so much sense. It has these massive hands with big claws, and it has a lot of contact moves. Fun fact, Power Whip is actually a contact move. I wasn't sure if it would be because it's obviously attacking from a distance, but because the whips are generally part of a Pokemon's body, that counts as a Tough Claws boosted move. So Power Whip with Tough Claws from a Zarude is going to do so much damage. And you can see here with the opponent's Reflect up, obviously Inteleon is not going to take that well at all. It goes straight right down to its sash despite the Reflect being up. Does a ton of damage. This is a Life Orb Zarude as well. And you see here Grimmsnarl goes for a Spirit Break. It does a lot, but it doesn't take out Zarude, thankfully, because of its great bulk. So now I'm going to go into my Talonflame. This is actually just a physical attacking Talonflame here because I don't need the Peck strategy. I've gone for Life Orb with this Zarude. And I'm just going to go for a Brave Bird to take out that Inteleon because I want to get a powerful hit on something else. Grimmsnarl, it's not the best matchup for Zarude, so I want to see what their last Pokemon is to try and get a really big hit on that with my Tough Claws. It's worth noting here that so far nothing's Dynamax. Like, I can't Dynamax my Zarude because max moves aren't contact moves, so they won't get Tough Claws boost. I just go for a Brave Bird here. Probably should have gone for a Flare Blitz, but maybe I was worried that it was, I don't know, Choice Scarf or something, but I didn't have Gale Wing, so I don't know why I didn't go for Flare Blitz there, but you can see how powerful Darkest Lariat is, because even with the Reflect up, that Darkest Lariat with Tough Claws is going to do a ton of damage and take out the Toxtricity, so all the opponent has left is this Grimmsnarl, and I can bring in my Berserker to finish off the game with Tough Claws Berserker, which is really cool. Obviously, Grimmsnarl's given up at this point because they're setting up a light screen, despite me having shown both of these Pokemon are physical attackers, so that's not going to help them too much. But I thought this battle did really showcase how powerful Zarude would be with that Tough Claws ability. I think it would have made so much sense. It's got loads of contact moves that would benefit, so Darkest Lariat and Power Whip are just two that I've shown here. It also gets Close Combat, which is definitely on my set, which does a ton of damage, and they're all pretty high base power moves, so that would be really, really cool to see. As I said, I don't think it would be broken because it doesn't boost the power of max moves, they're not contact moves, so I think it would be perfectly reasonable to give it this ability, and it would be way more useful than Leaf Guard. But let me know in the comment section what ability you think Zarude would be better with, because I really do think it deserves a better one. I really enjoyed this team. I've had a few more battles with it. It's pretty fun. I've got a Dracovish on there because it threatens the opponent and tempts them to bring more like water types in to resist the Fishious Rend, which obviously Zarude takes on really well. So I quite like that aspect, and I obviously really like using Berserker. It's so strong, even though it doesn't have much attack investment on this set. It's like really bulky assault vest, so it's pretty fun to play around with. But that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, consider subscribing for more content, and click that notification bell because I don't upload on a regular basis, so if you don't want to miss anything, definitely click the bell. More content coming soon. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.